Good morning, everybody. Keith Engle here for TGI Sports Talk Sunday Stream of Consciousness. Great to have you all with us today. We just got off a great show with the roundtable on the McGrath Podcast Network. So we welcome everybody coming from there. A nice tribute Brian Arts paid to the visionary of the McGrath Podcast Network when it was way back when it was Northeast Streaming Sports through National Streaming Sports. John Mac McGrath, who we want to. Been a year since Mac passed, and it's time has flown, man, and we miss him. We miss him. I miss going on with him and Jack. As you know, I got Jack in the will, and Jack and I do the show on the morning show on Mondays and Fridays. That I don't know if they did it every day all the time or not, but I've enjoyed doing that and kind of filling Mac's seat on Jack and Keith's weekend playbook. And we like to send our thoughts and prayers out to Miss Linda and certainly Mac watching down over us. Actually seemed to have put the mute button on Jack a couple times this morning. Anyway, we welcome everybody watching on McGrath Podcast Network, everybody watching on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, wherever you might be watching this from, the groups that allow us to share this show so graciously and helping us get close to us, as I said, 100,000 views just past, I think both of the last 228-day periods. Tremendous. Thank you so much. And you see some of our favorites always scrolling at the bottom. John Gonzalez from the Sports Authorities. Greg Rawlings from America's Pastime, The Love for Baseball. Flo and Can over at the Bottom Line Sports. They do a great podcast. They're also podcasting to Let's Talk Sports. We'll be on with Nick Bodkins later on Let's Talk Sports too tonight. I think at 9 p.m. Eastern. Pretty sure. I got to double check with Nick. But we'll be on with them later. And also Ken Krause over at Golf Bud Sports of All Sorts. And a quick shout out to Ralph Williams over at RW Media. Ralph does some great stuff out of Ocean City, Maryland. Big Pittsburgh focus, but national footprint. This flagship is the Sports Corner on Tuesdays from 4 to 6 p.m. Eastern with Smokin' Jim Frazier. With that said, lots to talk about. We got a record in the Derby yesterday. What an exciting Kentucky Derby yesterday with Golden Tempo winning and Sherry DeVoe, I think that's how you say her last name, winning the first female trainer to win Kentucky Derby. Congratulations to her. Just an exciting race. Renegade, the favorite. No big favorite in this race. 5-1 was a couple of the favorites. 5, 6, 7. No, the public couldn't decide where to go in this race, and for good reason. It was wide open, and Golden Tempo came from first place and just ran everybody down at the stretch. And Renegade was right there with him. But just an exciting race, and congratulations to Sherry DeVoe, again, if I'm saying that name right. Nice payday, too, if you had some money on Golden Tempo, or if you had money on the Exacta, or the triple was like $11,000, I think. So good job there. Then NBA, we had a great Game 7 with the Celtics and the Sixers last night. Joel Embiid and Maxey just. I can't say enough good about what they've done. And I can't say enough about Boston's offensive approach. Can't say enough bad. Sorry. Said this 2 years in a row. You can't run your entire offense around 3-point shots, and that's what they do too much. When they don't make them, they don't win. And you saw that the last 3 games. And that's to take nothing away from the 76ers, by the way. And exciting enough, we've got 3 Game 7s today in sports. 2 in the NBA, the Pistons and Magic, and also the Raptors and the Cavs. And in hockey, we've got Tampa Bay and Montreal. Big news in the NHL is Buffalo winning a playoff series for the first time in a gazillion years. So excitement there. Lots of great stuff going on. Edwards may play. He says he may play against San Antonio in the next round. We'll look at all of that. The Knicks moving on with a dominant performance the other night. Major League Baseball, we can talk about, the April, the team's in trouble. I still think, I know that Mendoza got a vote of confidence the other day, but, they lose 2 out of 3 this weekend. Today's a rubber game with the Angels. I still think he may be in trouble. Knicks have lost 17 of their last 20. Padres were sold. Reds issue 7 straight walks to tie a record yesterday. You think you lose those games? You do. 17-7 was the score there. In the NFL, some talk that Brendan Sorsby, who's not going to play any more college football after being one of the top portal targets this year as the quarterback at Cincinnati going to Texas Tech. He's voluntarily entered rehab for gambling addiction. He's made 10,000 bets since 2022. And a lot of chatter about him possibly going to the NFL supplemental draft. I don't know if I'm the Jets or someone needs a quarterback. Am I going to take that on? I don't know. Well, we can talk about that. Deshaun Watson, who is a name I said I would never say again, and now I have to because it looks like he's the favorite to be the Browns starting quarterback here in May. We'll see how that turns out in September, but we chat about that. Will the Texans sign Stroud? They've already, this is now, they've entered extension time for these guys, picking up options on 5th years and extending players. Will Henderson, who came in the league with C.J. Stroud, got his money. Are they going to pay C.J. Stroud, or they're kind of at a crossroads here? We'll see what happens there, and we'll certainly take your comments on that. The Big Ten shared a record $1.37 billion in revenue with their teams this past year, a $500 million increase year over year. That's huge. And also, I don't think we've had a chance to talk about the NCAA going to 76 teams in next year's NCAA tournament. And also in college sports, another piece of big news is the fact that it looks like this is going to pass, and it won't be retroactive, so this won't affect anybody who's in the league now, but we're going to have a huge change in eligibility rules where you're going to get 5 years to play, and it's going to be age-based. When you're either your high school class is graduated or you're 19 years old, you've got 5 years to play, whichever comes first. So there's going to be no more lawsuits that we want a 7th year of eligibility and such. So, but it's your show, guys. We're going to talk about what you want to talk about. Bring it, bring it, bring it, bring it. Good morning, Danny. Good to have you with us. Feeling a max. That's a good one. Danny, thank you for reminding me about that. In honor of Mac, we did earlier on the McGrath Podcast Network, our Sunday morning roundtable show. We paid tribute to Mac. It's been a year since he passed. It's hard to believe it's been that long, as I mentioned at the top of the show. But I think it is fitting that we play the jingle that Mac did for this show. And I get a kick out of it every time. So thank you, Danny.
Keith Engle, the guy with the sports talk show. On the internet, he's the guy that we all know. If you love your sports, he's the guy for you. He has lots of shows on Roku. Keith Engle with the TGI Sports Talk Show.
The dulcet tones of the late, great Mac McGrath. Thank you for prompting me to do that, Danny. And again, we pay tribute to Mac. We did it for an hour, and we do it on this show a lot. Whether we mention him or not, we're always thinking about Mac. And it's impossible for me to forget Mac for a lot of reasons. We collaborated on a lot of stuff over the years. One guest shot on his and Jack's Friday show in 2020 turned into every Friday ever since, basically. And then the Sunday show and a lot of and other special shows and whatnot. So, and I got Jack in the will, as I said. So there is that as well to bring a reminder in daily. Hello, Paul Spada. How are you, my friend? Sorry about your Celtics. The philosophy of this team, and I get it. analytics say take 3-pointers because you make X amount. It's better than taking 2-pointers. If you can't shoot 3-pointers, and they showed for 3 games they couldn't, you need to have a alternate strategy. Teams got to get the ball to the basket. I mean, you've got to have more than how many free throws they have last night. Maybe it's not as bad as I think, but the Knicks get to the free throw line a lot. All these teams take a lot of 3-pointers. Don't get me wrong. I get it. It's an integral part of the game today. I understand that. But you've got to be able to take the ball to the basket a little bit better. I mean, they didn't have a horrible amount. They had 16 free throws compared to 23. I mean, again, in a close game, that makes a lot of difference. 16 free throw attempts. Speaking of the great New York City area, the great John Gonzalez, as I mentioned earlier, from the Sports Authorities, the best admin out there. Welcome, John. Good to have you with us this morning. John's always good for a debate or two. Here's JB from the Back It Up Binge podcast. How are you? Calling Uncle as an Orioles fan. Yankees have kind of had their way with the Orioles this weekend. Listen, we all know that I've really given the Yankees, Aaron Boone, a hard time through the years. Aaron Boone has done a great job this April. Again, they ended April at 20-11. They won the last 2 days. They're 22-11 without Cole, without Rendon, without Volpe, who may not have a job. Caballero's played very well. I don't think I want Caballero playing every day at shortstop, but Volpe could be looking at being moved. They got to make a decision on him this week, I think, as his 20-day rehab assignment is up. And they moved George Lombard to AAA here the last week as well. I did say I thought Lombard would be up here by mid-season. And maybe one of them plays short and maybe one plays third base and Caballero goes back to his playing everywhere. I don't think I'm giving up on Volpe just yet, but in any event, and Stanton's out. Stanton played great in April. It was only a matter of time before he went out. But Aaron Boone's done a great job this April. And I can't really, there's a couple of spots I can really pick on him and have through the month. But all in all, he's done a great job. And the Orioles, they've been hanging around 500. But I wouldn't call Uncle just yet. I mean, you're 15-18, and we have 10 wild card spots or whatever the hell it is we got to fill. So, GQ John Gonzalez in the house. JB dusted off an old book already. Highly recommend for everyone. The Bronx. It's funny. I'm reading it on my Kindle again. That's very funny, JB. I don't know. I think I mentioned it the other day. I'm almost through it. It's an easy read, and a couple of 3 days, you're done with it. But I started reading it again like Thursday. For whatever reason, I just had Jack was talking about Friday. He doesn't reread books. There's very few I'll reread, but the Bronx Zoo is one that I will revisit every so often, and it's a great read. So it's kind of interesting that you dusted that off because I'm just about to finish it. That Golden Tempo, that horse was flying, and they were in last place, and the trainer talked about the fact that she was paying attention to the horses in front of the tempo, and that they got the race that they needed. They came out fast. The leaders, the pace was fast, and it set up well for Golden Tempo and Renegade. Renegade made a run at the end as well. My horse, I bet, was hell was it? Emerging Market. looked to be in great position at the top of the stretcher coming around the last turn. And I really thought was going to split horses and make a run near the rail. And all of a sudden I see like a stampede of 5 horses that just blew by the leaders at that point. It was a fun race. It's the most exciting 2 minutes in sports. And I still agree with that label. And congratulations again to Sherry Duval. the first woman trainer to win the Derby. Good morning, Matt, out in Orange County. How you doing, buddy? Michael Gott across the pond. Thank you for that compliment. Michael, you getting the NBA games and getting excited over there? NHL, NBA, how does that? We talk, I know, about MLB and the NFL with you over there in England. Tell me how the NBA and the NHL is received over there, and do you get the games? Hello, Rick. How are you? Rick will be very active. You're working Rick, I think, I don't know if I can say this on the air. I think Rick is undercover at Comic-Con this weekend. Working with anybody I know this week, Rick? Good to have you with us. Danny's at the portal. I haven't seen Chris yet. I hope Chris comes in. Chris had a question, a very provocative question, I think, that Brian, I don't think wanted to necessarily get into. We had a lot of stuff to talk about, and I don't think he wanted to veer off in that direction. But Chris, if you're out there, put that question back up, because I don't mind addressing those topics here. Speaking of quarterbacks with gambling problems, you see, the spelling's wrong, but I know who you're talking about. And I mentioned it on the roundtable this morning. I didn't, because we were talking about it before we went on the air. We never got onto it. A lot of chatter about Brendan Sorsby entering the supplemental draft, as I mentioned at the top, John. I'm not sure if you were here, but I did mention to those guys as we were talking about it. Art Schlichter, listen, there's no criminal issues involved here. The kid's got a problem, and he's had over 10,000 bets on online gambling accounts in the last 3 years. But Art Schlichter, he didn't start big, and that turned into criminal charges because of check kiting, and I think who knows what else he was doing. The guy was defrauding people right and left, and because he had to pay gambling debts. And again, this isn't a cautionary tale, because these leagues are all in bed with the gambling sites, and it's not necessarily a green light, because they still tell players they can't go out and gamble, but it's okay for you to take millions of dollars. And again, college football isn't quite as in your face about it as the NFL and Major League Baseball and the NBA, but they still take the money and run the ads. And these things are bound to happen. I mean, there's probably more Brendan Sorsby's out there. The question's going to be, and he's a really good quarterback. I mean, if you were coming out in the draft next year, he'd probably be in the top 5 quarterbacks I'm talking about. He was a 1 or 2, depending on your own preferences, as far as quarterbacks available in the portal this year when he moved from Cincinnati to Texas Tech. If you're an NFL team, are you going to be willing to take this on? Are you desperate enough for a quarterback to bring this into your organization, this distraction? Because, again, Art Schlichter was a while ago, but people haven't forgotten that was a sad story. And I'm not sure Brandon Sorsby is going to get picked in the supplemental draft. And by the way, he's got to apply for it, 1. And 2, the NFL's got to okay it. And I'm not sure that the NFL will. He may end up in the regular draft. But this supplemental draft, which I'm not sure when it is, I think it's in, maybe one of you guys know. I think it's in June, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe it's July. But we don't hear much about the supplemental draft. It only comes into play now and again. Bernie Kosar, I think, is like the biggest name ever to come through the supplemental draft. It's funny because I had this up earlier. I think I lost it, though. Let's see if it's still here. Bernie Kosar is one guy who got picked there. Chris Carter got picked in the supplemental draft. Terrell Pryor, Brian Bosworth, all notable names picked in the supplemental draft. So we'll see what happens. 100%. You know, the Celtics play pretty small, and I think that's one of the reasons I like the Knicks' chances against the 76ers is they play much bigger, I think, than the Celtics do. And I also think they take the ball at a hoop more, and they may get Embiid in foul trouble. But I think if you're a Sixers fan or just an NBA fan, I mean, the knock against Joel Embiid has been, his lack of two things. His lack of being able to beat the Celtics. He has won a championship, obviously, but that's tied directly to the fact he couldn't beat the Celtics. And by the way, the 76ers as an organization had not beat the Celtics in a playoff series, and I don't know how many this entails, how many series, but they haven't beat him in a playoff series since 1982. And the knock on Embiid had been not being able to get past the Celtics, not winning an NBA championship, and not being tough. I think we can put the toughness question to bed if it's still out there. I mean, the man had emergency appendix surgery 13 days ago. You can see him icing his abdomen on the bench yesterday. He's obviously, his wheels aren't 100%. He was banged up several times during the last 3 games. But the 76ers are so much better with him than without him. I mean, they were down 3-1 without him. When he come back, they won 3 in a row. Actually, he may have come back in game 4. Not sure. 5, 6, maybe played 4 games. But they're a much different team, and he was dominant for a lot of the time he was on the floor. And you're right. I think the Knicks will have a better chance, though, because I think they play bigger. Just don't like the NBA game, this run down the well, again, it's your team. Everybody's not playing that way. I mean, a lot of teams, again, the three-pointer is a huge part of it, Paul, to every team, right? And I'll be honest with you, if you're running – look at the Warriors. When the Warriors were winning, 3 or 4 championships, whatever they won, and they were at the top of their game with Thompson and Curry and et al. They would run plays. They looked like the 73 Knicks, 69 Knicks. But instead of ending up with a 12-footer, they would get an open 3-pointer. So if you're running an offense and finding a guy open, that's great. But I watched the Celtics come down and, never pass the ball, or one pass to a guy. And in fairness, a lot of these were wide open 3-pointers they missed. But if that's your whole offense, and it's not everybody, Knicks don't just sit there. They shoot a lot of 3-pointers, but their offense doesn't revolve around it. You go to the basket. And I think you saw a little bit of it with the Pistons, the Sixers last night. They were relying on mid-range jumpers a lot of the game, which is a lost art in the NBA. A 12-footer I talked about, 12, 15-footer. But yeah, I mean, if it's just run down the court and shoot 3-pointers, it sucks. And your team has fallen into this trap 2 years in a row. They have no alternative to shooting 3-pointers. If they're making 3-pointers, they're dominant and they win. It beat them last year against the Knicks. And again, I'm not telling you that the Celtics are the only team guilty of this. There's a lot of teams that do way too much of it. And it's never going away. The first year, the 3-pointer, I mean, there wasn't even like 100 3-pointers taken, I think, this season or something. We see 100 in a game now. It's just, again, it's great. Analytics be damned. Analytics say take 3-pointers because if you make X percentage of them, but I'll tell you what, if you're making 27% of them, you're not going to win. I mean, they went on a run yesterday, and, every time they went on a run and closed the gap, they'd come down and miss 2 or 3 3-pointers in a row. Geez, how about, actually running a play and get to the foul line? 16 trips to the foul line. And no adjustments. I'm not a big fan of your coach either, I got to tell you, because 2 years in a row in playoff series, I watch a guy make no adjustments. And being without Jason Tatum was a big deal last night too, but that's not why they lost. Not in my mind. Embiid was on a mission. He was tired of losing to the Celtics. I think he's tired of the narrative about himself. if they lost this series and he didn't play, I mean, they were probably going to bust this team up, the 76ers. Now maybe Embiid probably stays. I think Maxi's turned into a really fine NBA player, and we've maybe seen him maybe become a star here this last week. We see if that continues. Played like a star in this series. But, when the game is no fun, it's boring exactly when they run down and just shoot three-pointers. But I think there's a lot of teams running sets, and some of those offensive sets are to find open three-pointers, quite frankly. But I think there's a lot of teams still running, I think, interesting offenses. If you're a 76ers fan, you have to enjoy the way that game was played last night. I'm sorry. I think it was a well-played game. I think the Knicks played really well. Again, I don't feel like it's there's no way. You're 100%. That's actually a great book as well, JB. It's certainly not the game I watched growing up. I'm not saying it is. Chris, I wish Chris had an interesting question. And again, I don't remember it verbatim or even well enough to paraphrase. I wish he was here because I wanted him to ask it on this show because Brian didn't want to. I don't think Brian posted it at all. But I think it was more out of the fact that if we dove into it, we probably wouldn't get into a lot of other stuff. But it was a question kind of about, street ball versus, what the game was in the 70s. And when did it change? Well, Showtime changed the game. Also changed the viewership, too. I mean, remember, the game that we grew up watching, nobody was watching. That's why the game changed. The game had to change, unfortunately. I like that brand of basketball. I like the 75 Warriors, for instance, right? That's a great example to me of similar to the Knicks in 73 and 70 when I was really a kid. 75, the Warriors played a similar brand of basketball, I thought. But nobody was watching. If you remember, the NBA Finals were on tape delay at 11:30 on the East Coast. Nobody's watching. So, again, I'm not necessarily saying I love the game. I like the game better in the 70s. And that is a great book, by the way. But, I mean, I think I'm not moving Jazz to third base. He showed good morning, Neil, by the way. I agree. Volpe right now needs to earn a spot. I'm not going to just bench Caballero, but I'm not confident in playing defensively. I'm not really confident playing Caballero every day. It's shortstop. And if I'm going to move Volpe, I'm moving him to third base. I've seen enough of Jazz at third base to know that he's a far better second baseman than he is a third baseman. So me, again, personal preference, I would not move Jazz. I'd move Volpe to third base or Lombard, who's in AAA now. Maybe they'll play him at third base a little bit. I don't know. But we'll see. John thinks the Sixers beat the Knicks. Well, momentum does mean something, right? Jack doesn't think it does, obviously, but it won't carry over series to series. Confidence is part of the momentum, right? That's what builds momentum. Success and confidence. I mean, it's really the two main contributors to momentum. And Jesus, I mean, as a Knicks fan, I'd far rather be playing the Celtics right now, I think, than the Sixers. I would agree with you to that point, John. But I do think Embiid will be neutralized a little bit because I think the big men on the Knicks, Towns and Robinson, are going to be able to neutralize Embiid's impact a little bit. He's a great player. And he's gonna, so as long as he's healthy, he's going to be a key contributor for the Sixers and maybe the key contributor because everything else works better around him when he's in the game. But I feel like the Knicks, again, I've thought this a couple of times this year that the Knicks finally get it. And I said on the roundtable show earlier that I think you're seeing an OG, somebody you saw him in the last game that he played, the player that he could be if he was allowed to be. And I'm not saying the Knicks need to have OG do that every night, because there's really good players all around him. But OG would be a superstar in this league if he wasn't the third fiddle somewhere. And his game has been dampered down. He plays great defense, but offensively, and his own health has hurt him some as well. I think the Knicks play bigger. I think the Knicks play better defense than the Celtics play. So I like the Knicks here, but I don't think it's going to be an easy series at all. And I do think that momentum will certainly carry over here. And maybe the Knicks, lose game one. I don't know. Renegade was a favorite. I think if I didn't say that, I thought I said it. He was 5-1. He went off 5-1. The morning line favorite was Go Happy, I think. But he went up to 6-1. It was 5 or 6 horses, I want to say, that were between 5 and 7-1. It was my only point, is that there was no huge betting favorite. 5-1 is not like a huge mandate for a favorite. Often you're going to see a horse 2-1, even money, 5-2 in the Derby and most horse races. You don't often see the betting favorite go off 5-1. That's a nice payday if you get a winner in a horse race, $12 on a $2 bet. Good deal. Fun race, though. If you didn't watch it on replay. We've had some good derbies the last few years. Michael, in England, they're getting the games in the NBA okay on our Sky Sports, easy to access, plus the NFL when it starts. But Major League Baseball's on another satellite channel for me, which I can't access, unfortunately. You get no Major League Baseball? Didn't we make you a Yankee fan last year? Damn it. Who do I got to talk to over there? So you don't have access to it, or you've got to you have to buy it, and you choose not to? Or it's on a totally different system that you can access. Interesting. Is there interest in the NHL over there, Michael? With the NBA playoffs, it takes planning to watch, like lots of coffee and matchsticks under the eyelids as they're on between. They start, I guess. So, last night's Celtics start was, I think, 8 o'clock. Today you got a 3:30 game, so you can watch that at 8:30. I think the Cavs and Raptors are on at 3:30 Eastern today. So you can watch that at 8:30 your time, Michael. So you get to have some fun there. Dave Brown, I'm assuming, was a supplemental pick in 1994. I guess I was looking at some players that had some impact. Where'd he come out of? And that was Dave Brown, 94. That was Dan Reeves' tenure, I think, picked Dave Brown. Is that right, John? Never amounted to much in New York, and I think he went to the Cardinals afterwards, didn't he? I don't remember what school he came out of, actually. There's a couple other guys. Mike Williams, wide receiver out of USC a few years back. It doesn't happen every year that somebody's taken. So I don't think Sorsby's going to get taken. Again, if the draft is in June, which I think it is, this is going to be still pretty raw. And as Danny mentioned earlier, the Art Schlietzer story, while happening decades ago, I think is still pretty fresh in NFL circles' minds. I just don't know that an organization wants to bring that distraction in. Steve Walsh, that's a good one too, Neil. Good call. I do remember that now. In fact, I think Walsh started, didn't he? Walsh started for the Cowboys before Aikman did. Or came in to play maybe after Aikman got hurt in his rookie year. I know Aikman got the crap beat out of him in his first year. And Walsh played that year. Not terribly well. It's funny, Miami quarterbacks haven't historically fared that great in the NFL. Kozar had a decent career. I never considered him a great quarterback. He got to a couple AFC championship games, so he wasn't terrible. Then he Testaverde got better as his years went on. He had some pretty good years in Cleveland and with the Jets. No championships, but a lot of guys haven't really made it from Miami. Out of left field, but I wanted to share. Go to the BernieHubert.com and check out his sports art. Amazing. Just got 4 of his aces printed. Oh, got his 4 aces print of the 4 Orioles 20-game winners. I should get that, some of that. I should check that out because I could use some stuff from my back wall here. I haven't checked out his stuff. I'll do that. And everybody else, there's a plug for Bernie Hubert. Check out his stuff at BernieHubert.com. If you like sports art, there's a place to go. Free advertising. Well, we hope he's a stud. Again, prospects, and listen, I have every expectation that he will be. But, you know, prospects are called prospects for a reason, right? And a lot of them don't pan out. More don't pan out than do. You know, Volpe, I think because of and again, he's coming up with the same kind of hype that Volpe did. And I think without that tremendous hype in New York City, if Volpe had come up in Kansas City, you know, I think Volpe would be looked at a little bit differently by fans. Again, he needs to just change his game a little bit. Just make the plays on defense, put the ball in play on offense. Simplify this. We don't need 25 home runs from you, Anthony. You don't need to be Ozzie Smith at shortstop. You can be, you know, I don't know, Mark Belanger. Steady. Just never miss anything. You know, don't worry about making great plays. Make the plays. And I think Lombard will be fine. I think we'll see him this year. I really do. Good question, Michael. Who qualifies as the fairy tale story from the NBA Finals to win? I mean, I guess it depends on your version of fairy tale. Does that mean Cinderella and they have to come from like nowhere? Listen, the Knicks winning an NBA title, as much as, you know, a lot of people in LA don't want to see that, or maybe Boston. It'd be a great story for the NBA. The Knicks haven't won since 1973. It'd be a great story for the NBA for the Knicks to win the NBA championship. I think a repeat would be a great story. So right now I'm talking about the good teams, right? And we'll talk about the Cinderellas, if you will, in a second. San Antonio winning would be great for the NBA. It's hard for you to believe that San Antonio, with all the great success they had under Popovich, this is their first playoff series victory since 2017, I think. 9 years. Shocking to me. I think they would be a good story. The Lakers, yes. I think that would be a kind of a dark horse, if you will, a fairy tale, Cinderella story. I think the Lakers going all the way would be one of those. The Magic, the Raptors, those would be the teams you wouldn't think. And the Magic might get on that run. I think the Magic lose today, though, because I think that 23-point deficit and blowing that 23-point lead the other night, or losing it, however you want to parse that, and not having Wagner is going to hurt them in Detroit today. I think Cade Cunningham's, you know, one of the top 3 players in the NBA and has really taken over this series, and I think he takes over today. I think the Pistons might get off to a really quick start today. That game could be over early, I think. I think the Cleveland Raptors will go much tighter. I think those are very evenly matched teams. Who's left out west? The Lakers, Well, I guess, again, Minnesota, too. So to me, the fairy tale story would be the Knicks winning. Even though they're, one of the better teams, maybe the best team in the East right now. We'll find out. Again, you got to play the games. Again, it's been talked about as a foregone conclusion that whoever wins the East is going to be just, just fodder for the West come the NBA Finals. Whoever comes out of the West is going to walk all over whoever comes from the East. And that may happen. But we play the games for a reason, because what we expect doesn't always happen. See the 76ers beating the Celtics. Right? See Minnesota beating Denver with 2 of their stars out. So again, what we expect doesn't always happen. Look at the Rockets losing to the Lakers without Luka and Reeves for most of that series. So again, to me, it's the Knicks. It'd be great for the NBA. There are a lot of fans of other fan bases that would disagree with me. The NBA would do wonders for the NBA for the Knicks to win the NBA championship. Is fast break the way to play now rather than half court build up? Teams are going to run when they can, and a lot of times even in the running game, they're pulling up for 3-pointers. To Paul's point earlier, but fast break isn't something new. I mean, even back in the day, what JB's talking about, again, we saw a lot of half court basketball, but when the fast break was there, the Celtics, for instance, back in the day, the 50s, the 60s, the 70s. They were known for their fast break. The Lakers, Showtime in the 80s, fast break. But if it wasn't there, then it would turn into a half court game. So, again, is there a right or wrong way to play? I mean, it depends on the personnel that you have. And defense is what starts fast breaks, right? Defense and being strong on the boards, right? That leads to defensive rebounds or steals, which leads to fast breaks. So it's going to be the defense that really, to me, if teams that still play good defense, and good defense isn't really holding teams to 70 points anymore. Knicks play some good defense. When the Knicks are good, they're scoring off their defensive efforts. And I think it's the same for the 76ers. I think that's going to be a really good series. I really do. I'm not going to go with the 76ers could win the series. I'm not going to say they can't. And maybe it just is a Knicks fan. I really think Boston might have been a better matchup for the Knicks. But I think the Knicks win. But the fast break, I think both are still in play. But the game is played at a much faster pace, Michael, today, obviously. And again, I'm not sure how much of, say, 70s basketball you watched or had access to. Paul, be interested in how many 3-pointers were taken a game in the Larry Bird era. Let's see. Hold on. Let's see. Total NBA 3-point shots per year. See if I can find something here. All right. Here you go, Paul. The 3-point evolution. Are you ready? In 1980, which I think is the year that the 3-pointer was implemented, 2.8 shots per game. So that's the Larry Bird era per team. So total about 5 or 6. Say 6. In 96, that was up to 16 attempts a game. This is on average. In 2013, it was up to 20. In 21 and 22 seasons, 86,000 total 3-pointers were taken. 23-24, 35 attempts per game per team. So it doubled from 1996 to 2023. It doubled. And right now we're at 42%. One season, they don't give me the average there, though. Wow. 42%. I'm sorry, 42% of all field goals attempts now. I'm sorry, not 42 attempts, 42%. Wow. There you go. Changed a lot. So in Larry Bird era, they were taking 3 a game. Probably went up a little bit after 80, right? They don't go year by year. See if they give me anything more. I mean, Steph Curry took 402 3-point attempts in 2015. And the accuracy's improved from 28% in the inaugural season when they were taking 6 a game to 35 to 36% now. Isn't he? Again, the guy makes no in-game changes. I mean, you just have different guys shooting 3-pointers. When you don't make it, I mean, I get it. If that's your strategy and you got good 3-pointers, and even if the analytics say that's what you should do, well, fine, if that's what you want to go with. But when it's not working, you need to have an alternative strategy. Joe Mazzulla has none. No, he can't coach for me. You've got to be able to make in-game adjustments. Not a big fan of that. The Celtics coach either. There you go. Maxey was drafted 21st in the 2020 first round. Go figure. He's a pretty good player, man. I've really never given this guy his credit. And watching him this last week, I've seen a guy who is a very good NBA player. And we'll see how that works. He's got, well, I mean, you would think in theory, where are they going to go, though, John? And I'm not a big Mike Brown fan. He's doing well. The team's playing well. They won more regular season games than they won last year. But it's all about the playoffs, as you say. And to me, before Mike Brown gets fired, and I can't fire the owner, but maybe, I'm forgetting who the GM is now. I only talk about him all the time. Why is his name not popping in my head? I know you can give it to me, John. Jesus God. I just had my dementia test on Thursday and I aced it. Shocking, I know. I'm stalling because I'm trying to come up with this guy's name. I've got it right. It's right on the tip of my freaking tongue. Anyway, before I fired Mike Brown, I'm firing the guys, and I can't fire the owner. Dolan, I can't fire. I'm firing the guys who said we can't go any further with Tibbs. He can't take this team any further than he has. So if Mike Brown doesn't get further, they failed in their mission. I mean, Tibbs should still be coaching this team. There's no doubt in my mind. And it's not Mike Brown's fault Tibbs got fired. So I'm really not going to root against Mike Brown. And I'm really not sure they're going to fire him. If he'd gone out first round, he might have had a problem. They all would have had a problem. I can't think of the freaking guy's name. Steven. Isn't that terrible? It happens. Oh. Anyway. We'll get it here in a second. It'll pop in my head or somebody will put it up here. But yeah, this is a failure because you fired one of the best coaches in the league because you said he couldn't take you any further. If they don't get past the 76ers, if they don't get past the Pistons or whoever in the Eastern Conference Finals, then yes, this season's a failure and theoretically Mike Brown is a failure. But the organization fails more than Mike Brown in my mind. I mean, does anybody think this team wouldn't be playing exactly like they're playing if Tibbs was still there? I don't. Now, one thing I'll say, and people have said this, yes, he utilizes his bench more. Not a lot more, but more. But Tibbs had no bench. There was no Jordan Clarkson on that bench. Tibbs did what he had to do. They talked about him riding his starters too much, but when you don't have any horses to replace the guys you have in the lineup effectively, then you can't just put guys out there for 10 or 12 minutes if they can't play. So Brown's got a better bench with Robinson, with Clarkson. Shamat has come on very well. I think he was on the team last year, and he got some significant minutes under Tibbs. So this team, I don't think we'd be seeing anything different if Tibbs was a coach. There we go. That's the question that Chris brought up before and didn't get addressed. So I don't. Again, I don't know if it's a racial, it's a cultural thing more than anything else. The inner city hip hop culture take over the NBA. The 60s was a bunch of tall, dorky white Jewish guys, and not all of them. I mean, when you think about it, the Celtics started a lot of black guys. I mean, all the stars on that team, other than Havlicek, if I'm not, well, after Bob Cousy, right? I'm talking about the later. So originally Cousy, and Russell were the stars of those teams. But even in the 60s, as Cousy was, eased out, most of that nucleus was black. Don Nelson, John Havlicek. Later on, Collins. But I think the NBA, to talk about the hip hop culture, I mean, and I guess to take it to Michael's question about running, fast break basketball against half court basketball, you saw a lot of fast breaks with those Celtic teams, and everybody else might have been playing, a lot of plotting white guys, whether they were Jewish or not. I don't know the cultural breakdown of the NBA in those days necessarily. We know the racial breakdowns. But the game and the culture changed a lot when I think overall, right? And not just like isolated teams like the Celtics. When Magic came in the league, the game started to change. Then we got Showtime. That changed the way teams played. And the hip hop part, I mean, I guess I go back to like Allen Iverson. I mean, that it feels like that era is what kind of, if you want to use the term hip hop culture, and I'm not sure. And again, I don't know if it's more cultural than racial. It's a lot of white guys walk around listening to hip hop, believe it or not. I personally don't get it, but that's just me. So anyway, it's a good question, and it's something that guys can feel free to weigh in on. So I think it's a fair question because you're kind of looking at the history of the league, and as the league changes and evolves, and a lot of people don't like the way the game's played today, and they relate it to schoolyard basketball, right? What's played on in Rutgers, the Rutgers League in New York. These guys are talented. And I agree. Sometimes the games are harder to watch today, but certain teams are harder to watch than others in certain games. Even the Knicks fall into this. I mean, I think the Knicks move the basketball pretty well, but there are times where Brunson will dominate holding the ball. There'll be times that they just start throwing up 3-pointers. But I think you see in the Celtics, I think you see the detriment to that type of play. It's fine if it's working, but if you don't have an alternative and that's failing, you're going to lose. Duke. I do remember that now. He was a huge bust. They had some bad quarterbacks then, right? And I think I'm right that was the Dan Reeves era. I mean, he had Brown and Danny Cannell. God. I think when he first came in, he still had Phil Simms, right? They drafted Brown, they drafted Cannell. Dave Brown. MLB channel you can have access to. It's not cheap. I don't disagree. Again, I don't. Fortunately, I've got the Yankees to watch, and there's enough other games on other outlets here. I would say that if you have Apple or, Prime has Yankee games. If you have Apple or Prime, you have access to those. And again, there's financial aspect to those as well. But if you're watching either Prime or Apple, you can get games there. Netflix is going to have Sunday morning games, I believe, starting here in May. NBC, if you get access to NBC, will have Sunday night baseball once the playoffs are over. So you might have some places there, Michael. The reason you don't get the MLB NHL channel is not just the cost, and it is not cheap. I don't disagree. It's that they lose the license now and again. So I pay for the following year. It will go to another satellite channel, I see. So you're not just buying. MLB channel or the MLB package, for instance, if I bought it here, I'd have access to everybody but the Yankees. And I don't. I can see enough baseball without having that. You should look at those other options, Michael. Banchero of Orlando's rising star in the NBA. I've talked about him a couple times in the last couple of weeks, John, and I felt like a couple of these guys in Orlando, especially Banchero, he was the number one pick in the draft, and you forget about him. I forgot he was even not in the league. I shouldn't say I forgot about him, like he wasn't in the league. But, you don't realize these guys, they lost. Orlando seems to be like and maybe it's because, again, as a Knicks fan, I'm not paying attention to Orlando, but I don't think they're getting on a lot of the game casts either on ESPN or NBC or Prime. So I kind of lost track of Banchero, and he has played really, really well in this series. Not as good the other night, but that whole team went cold in the second half. But he's a fine player, and he's been a really good standout in this series for sure. So I think maybe he will start to get his due now that he's getting a little bit of a spotlight on him. Orlando not making the playoffs before for I don't think any of his years, if I'm not mistaken, John, before this, puts these guys off to the side and we forget about them. But he was the number one pick in the draft, and I do think he's a rising star for sure. You're welcome, Paul. I'm not sure for what, but you're welcome. Oh, for the stats on the three-pointers. 42% of all the shots, now are three-pointers. That's too much. And I do think that's skewed a little bit by some of the teams that take more. But again, you know why? It's all analytics. It's just like going for 2 points on the 2-point conversion. But the thing with analytics is analytics say because the shooting percentage has gone up, right? And if you're making 36% of 3-pointers versus 50% of 2-pointers, then you're better off. But that means you have to shoot 3-pointers on every play for the analytics to work. This is what I never get. Especially it's the same thing as going for 2 versus 1 in the NFL. The analytics say go for 2, but unless you're doing it every time, the analytics don't work out. So you can't pick and choose. I mean, there are times to go for 2, without a doubt, right? But if you're going to listen to the analytics say you do it every single time. So if you don't do it that way, the analytics have to go out the window. Same thing with the three-pointer, maybe even more so with the three-pointer. If you don't do it every time, then the analytics don't really mean much. Listen, I'm not the most educated guy in the world. That just seems like simple logic to me. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it's a case of the 3-shot point going up because the game's defense has improved down the post and in the pass or in the paint. Possibly. I think that's probably a contributing factor. Again, I think the overall perception is they don't play defense in the NBA. I think that's incorrect. I think some teams are not good at playing defense, but I think defense is still integral to the NBA. Offenses have gotten better, and the defenses, even the good defenses, are going to give up more points. To your point about it being better in the paint, well, the 3-point really took away. There aren't a lot of really natural centers, stars in the NBA, right? There's a handful like Towns, like Banchero. I wouldn't classic centers, right? I'm not even sure if I can call Towns a classic center, 7 foot tall, because he shoots a lot of outside shots. He's one of the best shooting big men, centers in the history of the game. I didn't say he was one of the best centers in the history of the game. Don't misconstrue what I said. But yeah, I think it's more that the fact that they got better at shooting 3-pointers. And then as players got better, the analytics said take more, because taking more 3-pointers at this percentage is better than shooting 2-pointers at this percentage. But like I said, if you don't take all 3-pointers, doesn't that throw the analytics right out the window? So I think there's a lot of contributing factors, Michael, and I don't doubt that, defense in the paint might make a difference. Being able to play zone defenses can make a difference. Well, Bird, how many 3-pointers? What was Bird's? Let me pull up. Let's just pull up Larry Bird for a quick second here. Let me double check. Let's look at his how many 3-pointers he took. So his 3-point percentage over his career was 37% made, by the way. And he averaged only 2 3-pointers a game for his career. Attempts for his career. 3 a game. So imagine if he was taking 15 a game. Now you got to take away some of his 2-point points too, Paul. So he would have scored a lot more. What did he average for his career? 24 points a game he averaged for his career. He would have averaged 30 points a game some of these years where he was at 29, 28. Yeah, he did average in the low 30s because he was making 37% of them then when guys were making 24. I would have thought Larry Bird averaged a lot more than 2 a game, and it went up. His first 8 years or so, he averaged about 1.5, and he probably averaged 3 a game. 3 a game his last 6 years or so. Amazing. I visited You could coach the NBA in that 3-point strategy. The Celtics, you could. Anybody could. It's not hard. All you got to do is, put fresh guys in to shoot. That's it. Missoula is not I don't think he's a good coach. The 3-pointer was an ABA innovation, which is correct. It seems to fit better in that era. The red, white, and blue ball, the Kentucky Colonels. I mean, even in the NBA, how many in the ABA? Let me change that question from total. Let's just see for the hell of it, John. I don't think they were taking that many in the NBA or the ABA either. Let me see. ABA. Nah, see, they're not. You're not understanding my question. All right, so the leaders in 3-point, these are 3-pointers made. So now the average is, this year went down to 273, by the way. The average has been around 330 the last 3 years, 285, 337, 378. You go back to the ABA days, the leaders 123, 80, 69, 60, 71. So it was just a fraction. I mean, it's like 50%, 25 to 50% of what it is today, even in the ABA, where it was brought into play, as John said. And I think it did fit that better. You know what I'd like to see him do? Move it back. Move it back. Make it harder. You see, Steph Curry shoots, 40-footers anyway. Make it harder. And Dolan is a jerk, by the way. Anybody who bans Charles Oakley from the Garden is a jerk. And the James Dolan area hasn't been fraught with success for the Rangers or the Knicks. And when does he face the public? I just had the guy's name. Who's the GM? Jesus Christ. Isn't that terrible? Guitar Jimmy, I call him. He used to come on Imus and play the guitar. How about talking basketball? How about we talk about how you haven't been able to win a championship here since 1973? Now, in fairness to him, he wasn't in charge that whole time. I get it. But James Dolan has owned this team since when? 70 years old now. How long has he owned the and I think he kind of leveraged it by becoming president of the Madison Square Garden, if I'm not mistaken. When did he take over the Knicks? Yeah, I can't not find any exact year I could say he's been in charge. I want to say, though, since, whatever, early 90s. Neil, the NBA games seem to be played at a frenzied, out-of-control pace with launched three-pointers. Hard to watch at times. Hard to watch at times, for sure. And there are periods in almost every game that seem to be played exactly the way Neil's talking about here. But I think the teams that are successful, ultimately successful, are the teams that are able to run some semblance of an offense at crunch time. And that frenzied pace, look at blowout basketball turns into these games turn into blowouts when teams start missing 3-pointers. Especially when there's no need for them just yet, right? I mean, I think moving it back would bring the game back under a little bit of control. You see guys going to the basket more. It might even open up the floor a little bit more. I don't know. But, I mean, I can watch three-point basketball, as I said earlier, as long as there's some thought put in, some strategy put into the offense. Again, when the Warriors were winning NBA championships, they took a lot of three-pointers, as you saw with the numbers from Steph Curry in 2015. But they were also running an offense designed to get an open three-pointer. That's different than just running down the court and throwing up a three-pointer, right? Which is what Neil's referring to, and I think Paul was referring to earlier, and some others. Leon Rose, thank you, Jesus Christ! I don't know why I couldn't get there. He's the guy who's got to go. By the way, you don't just fire. If you're going to fire Mike Brown, I don't have a problem. If we don't win, I don't care. I don't have any allegiance to Mike Brown. It's not Mike Brown's fault that that Tibbs got fired. In fact, he was probably the fourth or fifth choice to be the coach. But Leon Rose has got to get fired. And people tell me, oh, it's not Leon Rose's fault. It's James Dolan's fault. Well, somebody above the coach has got to get fired when you made a decision that Tibbs couldn't take you any further. But this guy, for whatever reason, because he'd been to finals with the best player in, the last 30 years playing on his teams. No. I mean, yeah, fire Mike Brown, but fire Leon Rose. And if we can fire James Dolan, I'm sure John's not going to have any problem with this. Let's find a way to do it. Let's start a fund right now. We'll buy the Knicks. I don't know if I get Danny in. I don't know if I get Danny in that. CA, how are you, my friend? Blessed Sunday to you. Good to have you with us. Sorry to hear about your Stars going out to the Wild. I really thought they were going to come back and win that series. Some good stuff going on in the NHL, by the way. As I said, the Sabres make the second round, win a playoff series. Heck, getting into series up the playoffs for the first time in 14 years, winning a playoff series for the first time in forever. Good job by Lindy Ruff coming home again. Shows you can come home again. Got a great game 7 tonight against with the Lightning and the Canadiens. Hurricanes and Flyers are off. Carolina leads that 1-0. Out west, game 1 is today, the Avalanche and the Wild. And tomorrow will be game 1, the Golden Knights and the Mighty Ducks. They're not the Mighty Ducks, I know. But so anyway, a little bit of hockey there. Hello, Mr. Black Sheep. I would love to help you. I have a question if you can help me out. And by the way, for anybody new, always hang in there. I know it's been 8 minutes behind is not bad for me in the comments. So hang in there. If you got a question, Mr. Black Sheep, throw it in there. Certain guys, Kriska's got to get in the show every week. Eloy Jimenez going for a new opportunity elsewhere. He's healthy and batting .290 with a .345 batting average. Got demoted because he didn't have any homers. Good grief. I know. We don't care about batting average and on-base percentage anymore. This is a home run league. And I'm not telling you that's right. I guess home runs are all it sells tickets. Danny Fuller, remember the three-point line didn't come into the league until 79-80, as I mentioned. Right? Yes, the Knicks would have potentially, well, they would have lost game 6. They still would have, no, wait. Oh, that series would have been over, right? No, I do remember that. I just watched the logo the other night, by the way. I think, Danny, you might have talked about it. Great. If you haven't watched the logo on Prime, and if you have access to Prime, I think it was on Prime, you got to watch it. It's a tremendous look at a very complicated man, Jerry West. prolific player in the NBA, coach in the NBA, one of the best executives in the history of the NBA, one of the best players in the history of the NBA, and a complicated guy from everything that you get in this this documentary. There's not a lot of guys I feel like I watch a documentary about and I learn a lot of new stuff. But I learned a lot of new stuff about Jerry West. And to Danny's point, if that 3-point shot had been in play in 1970, the Knicks never would have won their first championship. And maybe they don't win their second. The butterfly effect comes into play then. But anyway, check out the logo. It's a great, great documentary. Louis Dampier with the Kentucky Colonels. I remember the ABA very well. The ABA was not prolific on TV, right? I might get a Nets. We didn't have cable yet up here when the NBA was still in play. My grandparents got it in the mid-'70s. HBO had a contract, I think, with the ABA at that point. So you'd see some games there. I feel like WOR in New York would televise some Nets games. So I did see a decent amount of ABA games as a kid because I spent a lot of time at my grandparents. And it was an interesting game to watch. And Louis Dampier was one of the good players. He was one of the players that I was surprised didn't. And as far as I remember, Danny, and maybe you can correct me, I don't think came into the NBA when they merged. They had a dispersal draft of players, and I don't think Louis Dampier came into the league. They only took in 4 teams, I think, right? They took in the Nets, and Nets only got in because they had Julius Erving, and then they sold them to the Sixers, right? The Spurs, the Nuggets. I'm missing somebody. Indiana. I think that's the only teams that came in, and the rest of the players were part of a dispersal draft, and were kind of distributed around the league. Kentucky, shockingly, probably should have been one of those teams that came into the league. And I know there's some reasons why, and they're escaping me now. I've watched a few documentaries about the ABA, both the rise and demise of the ABA. And it's some very interesting stories. I think, if I'm not mistaken, Prime's got a really good documentary on that as well. The team, the guys who really made out in the merger were the guys who owned the St. Louis Spirit at the time, because they agreed to fold their team. And I think guys got bought out by the other ABA clubs to go away and not to make the merger happen. And I think those guys didn't take any money up front, and they said, look, we'll just take I think NBA might have paid these teams to go away. They said, we'll just take a percentage of every team's TV contract infinitum. Best deal, maybe business deal ever made. A couple of brothers, I can't remember their names off the top of my head. You wouldn't even donate to the Knicks now? Them and the Cubs treatment, David Ross. Danny holds a grudge. Listen, I hate the fact that now, if it's your team, you wouldn't stop rooting for them, right? If the Dodgers fired Dave Roberts tomorrow, or let's just say the Dodgers didn't make and I don't think, again, just pretend you love Dave Roberts, because I can't remember which Dodger fans still don't like him. I have no idea why. I don't know that's you, Danny. You wouldn't stop rooting for the Dodgers because they fired a manager that you loved. He didn't make the playoffs. Let's say he doesn't make the playoffs this year after winning, the World Series a couple years in a row. That's not going to happen. I guess we can say that. It's some certainty. Maybe we can't in today's sports world, but you wouldn't stop rooting for them. I could care less. I mean, do I think the Cubs treated David Ross badly? Yeah, but I could care less about the Cubs. And I'm never going to stop rooting for the Knicks because they fired a guy I think they should have never fired. You're not wrong. I don't think. I guess maybe the question would be, would I be up in arms? Yeah, I would. I would say the Dodgers are idiots if they fired Dave Roberts for not winning this year, which is unlikely. But at some point, I probably wouldn't care. I'd certainly roast them. But you can't. I don't think you've ever said that I shouldn't be rooting for the Knicks because they fired Tom Thibodeau. I mean, obviously, I'm not very fickle. My teams don't ever change. Danny can afford to buy the Knicks. There you go. Oh, he moved to Anaheim. Well, I'd still root for the Knicks because I'm a Knicks fan. I'd be very unhappy. As Vegas has moved on, let's hear it for John Tortorella. I love John. I really do. Hard with eight. This is similar to the Nuggets situation last year. It didn't work out for them. They fired Michael Malone with like 3 games left in the regular season. It didn't really work out for them well afterwards in the playoffs. But Tortorella, I can never say his name right. And I love him. Him and Mike Keaton are my 2 favorite Ranger coaches. Because they didn't take crap from players. They didn't take crap from the media. And they won. Won a championship in New York, but I always liked them. So we'll root for Vegas. Who's, by the way, a number 1 seed. It's like they fired, he took over a team that was just barely in the playoffs either. So had to be something really bad going on in Vegas. So we'll root for him. Danny might not. Which is the greatest MLB catch? Mays center field in 1954, Jeter's catch in the stands in 2001, or Pudge's dugout catch was great. Been some great catches. Mays was a great play. Jeter's, it's gonna. If I take Jeter, I'm gonna come off as biased probably. I'm trying to think of some others. Ken Griffey Jr. made some absolutely unbelievable catches. I can't single one out though. So if you're gonna make me single one out, I'm gonna take Jeter. Probably won't. John, Danny would keep the Knicks in New York and move there during the season just to be around you. John, this works out. So Danny's got the money to buy the Knicks. He buys the Knicks. You get a new gig. I mean, he's going to need a full-time security guy here in New York. Right? So you could be the head of security for the Knicks, maybe from Madison Square Garden, because I'm guessing if he buys the Knicks, he's probably going to have to buy the Rangers as well. Channel 11 showed the Knicks games, or the Nets games with Rick Barry coach. I was on WR. I wouldn't remember anyway, because again, my grandparents, where my grandparents lived, it was like the first place we got cable up here. And it was the mid 70s, early 70s, maybe. They had a few channels. They had HBO really early. I know HBO showed, they had a contract with the ABA for at least a year or 2. And I knew the Nets were on one of the New York channels. I thought it was 9, but you're there much closer to that situation than I was, Neil. So, I will agree with your assessment there that they were on. They were fun to watch, by the way. Who was the great player, or not? He wasn't great, but he was a really good player, and like, I think he was a sex symbol. He might have been in Playgirl. I don't know. Got killed in a plane crash. Played for the Nets. Ladner? Danny or Neil might be able to help me out there. Wendell Ladner, is that right? He was killed in a plane crash while he was playing for the Nets. Nuggets, Pacers, Nets, and Spurs. I'm correct. Look at that. Hockey season is over. It's high school and college baseball time. We'll be getting started. College baseball, we'll get into the pretty quickly. We'll be getting into regional play. Danny's UCLA Bruins at the top of the rankings. The last I looked, I'm pretty sure that they're still there. I went over these the other day, right? UCLA's number 1, Carolina's 2, Georgia Tech, Texas, and Georgia round out the top 5. Should be an interesting regional and college World Series this year. There's a few schools that are historically great programs that haven't been great, that are playing much better, I think, this year. USC, Arizona State. These programs have kind of gone a bit irrelevant in the world of college baseball the last few years. But I believe they're both ranked in the top 25 right now. As I look, I see USC at 21 and Arizona State at 19. I do remember the Nuggets. I did put the X on them, picking them to get to the finals. I picked the Nuggets and the Knicks. What's funny too about the Nuggets series is not only did I pick the Nuggets, but one of the guys I've been hardest on in the NBA in recent years is Rudy Gobert. I wasn't a fan. I thought he was soft, and I've got to do a little mea culpa on Rudy Gobert because Rudy Gobert did a tremendous job against the Nuggets and shutting down who I think is still I think will win the MVP in Jokic. So great job by Rudy Gobert. Great job by the Timberwolves. And see you later to my prediction of the Nuggets in the finals. If I get a Knicks championship, I will forget all about it. I got a long ways to go for that. Here's a name that was memorable in the ABA. There you go. I didn't see that comment either. Thank you, Danny. I was not looking ahead to the comments. I actually was thinking about Wendell Ladner. I remember the news reports. I was a youngster, and we'd spend the whole summer at my great uncle, my mother's uncle's camp. And we didn't have a TV up there, and then we had a radio. We listened to radio, and local radio station had a really great sports reporter. I'm talking about when I'm 13, 14 years old, 15. I think that might have happened in 75, 74. John, you can correct me. But he died in a plane crash, if I'm not mistaken, right? Maybe a plane. I think, if I'm not mistaken, maybe, I don't know if it was JFK or LaGuardia. I don't remember now, but I feel like they missed the runway, landing in New York. Again, I'm not sure. Good point. If any of my favorite teams fired a coach, I would still be a fan of that team, no doubt. Yeah, I knew you would be. I mean, I get your bashing of the Knicks, but because I'm on the same page, right? They never should have fired Thibodeau. You're never going to see him be able to jump on board as what's the word I want to use, Danny? With as much vitriol as you have, because they're my team. So I can't root for them to lose to prove I'm right that Tibbs should still be the coach, I guess is my point. Now, if they win it all, I guess they did the right thing too. There's that point too. I don't know. I guess I'm not even willing to say that, quite frankly. Am I willing to say they did the right thing by firing Tibbs if they win an NBA championship with Mike Brown this year? Because I think they would have won an NBA championship with Tom Thibodeau. I guess both things can be true. Mike Brown will have done a great job and brought a championship back to New York, but they would have done it with Tibbs, or could have done it with Tibbs. We're never going to know. The narrative changes a lot, though, if he wins. I didn't bring that up. I did talk about it on the MLB update. Thank you for bringing that up. It's great to see Donnie Baseball back in charge of a Major League Baseball team in Philadelphia. A job he didn't necessarily want, and a job that was offered to Alex Cora before Donnie was given the interim tag. And it's interesting because Donnie walked away from the Toronto last year thinking he was pretty much done with baseball. His son, and I'm sure Dave Dombrowski to some extent, his son Preston is a GM in Philadelphia, talked him into coming back and being Rob Thompson's bench coach. But I'm glad Donnie's still in baseball, and I'm glad that he's got a chance to run a team again. Where's this come from? Joe Rudy. What's that question? Did I miss something? Oh, Joe Rudy's catch in the World Series. I got it. I look back at the that was a great catch up against the wall in Riverfront. Game 1 or 2 in 72, right? I want to say game 1. Game 1, John? Correct me if I'm right or wrong. Game 1 in 1972. I think that's the catch you're referring to. Great catch. Oh, I'll give you another one. Actually, Matt, how about Dwight Evans in 1975 catching a drive in right field in Game 5, that great Game 5, catching a ball, that was headed for the bullpen, kind of stuck out his glove. And he doubled the guy off first base. That was a great defensive play. Great catch. And I'll give you one, too, from 1978 that wasn't a catch, but it was a great defensive play. John's going to remember this. Lou Piniella. In the one-game playoff in Fenway, the Red Sox were rallying, I want to say around the 7th inning. Maybe it was the 8th inning. And Piniella totally lost a ball in the sun. Red Sox had a couple runners on. Piniella totally lost the ball in the sun. In fact, you see him kind of put his hands out, and he just sticks his glove out. He didn't catch it. He caught it on one hop, but he kept runs from scoring. That's a great defensive play as well. Didn't result in any outs, but probably saved a couple of runs and probably kept the Yankees from losing that game. Maybe nobody remembers that. I'm going to say nobody remembers that except John Gonzalez. Your last team change was 70 Rams to the Redskins. Actually, my only change of favorite teams in my life. I've never changed teams. I guess at college I've changed because I was a Marquette fan in my youth in basketball. I didn't really have a team in football, quite frankly, until I guess I rooted for Syracuse. But professionally, I've never changed my teams ever. Go UCLA beach. You got the beach volleyball again today? I didn't know that college even had. I should have. I guess it's an Olympic sport. You would think it's got to be a college sport, right? For the most part. But I didn't know the beach volleyball was even an actual. I shouldn't say real, because it's obviously very popular. And Danny, your granddaughter, who plays? You have somebody that plays beach volleyball. So I'm guessing. I'm guessing now it's in college. Do the high schools out there also play beach volleyball, or are they more like I don't know, CYO or whatever you want to call it? Basketball has amateur teams for kids. AAU, CYO. They have AAU teams or something like that for beach volleyball, or are they playing in high school as well? UCLA beach volleyball today to beat Stanford. It's on at 9:30 a.m. Eastern, I take it, or is that your time? In the other country, I'll take it personally. Here's the thing. You know why I say that, right? And I think in that regard, you and I are in the same. We're in the same. We're in the same part of the aisle, if you will. In fact, I have said many times that if I'm going to say California is like another country, I should say that about the same state that I live in. There's a good one, Chris. Kevin Mitchell, good friend of the show. Barehanded catch. Let's see, where was he then? Was he with then? The Reds or still with the Giants? I think he's still with the Giants. That's a good one. Danny would buy the Islanders before the Rangers, actually. Maybe that's a toss-up. Well, the thing is, I think if you buy the Knicks, you're going to have a hard time not buying the Rangers because they're going to go as probably – Dolan's going to sell them both. If he ever sells them, probably sell them as the unit because he's got control over the whole Garden. I don't think you'd want to go in there and have James Dolan be your boss. You'd want to buy the Garden and both teams. So you're going to need a little more money than you think. But according to John, you got it. So let's go, Rangers. Yeah, Wendell Ladner. Where'd my guy go? Where'd my guy with the MLB question go? I might have been too long getting to him, I guess. I was fast, too. It was 8 minutes. Damian, how are you, buddy? As a Bulls fan who had Tibbs as a head coach, I wouldn't call him a good head coach, and I don't blame the Knicks for firing as well, that's not the reason he got – I mean, I get, Damian, if you're unhappy with Tibbs because Rose got hurt under his watch – because I'm going to guess you say he played him too many minutes. Well, I don't have a problem with playing my players, 38, 40. No, I play them 40 minutes a game. Got to have your best players on the floor. And Tibbs did pretty good with the Bulls. And by the way, what are you going to do when he gets rehired? Because there's a lot of chatter. There's a lot of chatter that they've been in touch with Tibbs in the event that Billy Donovan walked away, and Tibbs might have a reunion in Chicago. And how can I say he's not a great head coach? My team hadn't been relevant in decades. He got them to the Eastern Conference Finals, someplace they hadn't been since the 90s. He's a good coach. You can dislike him. And again, your opinion's your opinion. You're entitled to it. Damian, don't get me wrong. You're entitled to your opinion. Everybody has a right to be wrong. But again, it sounds to me like your opinion of Tibbs as a coach, because he had some success in Chicago, as I remember, when you had been coming off a pretty down period. And again, you're comparing him to Phil Jackson, so everybody's going to pale in comparison. But when, he comes in and your team really hadn't been relevant and the team got better every single year, the team got better under Tibbs and went further in the playoffs every single year. That's not a bad head coach. I get it. And I guess, the only reason you could say that he's to blame for Rose's career ending, well, actually, I would say Rose's career ended twice, right? Because Rose played a while after the injury, never at the same level. I'm going to guess you're saying that because he played him too much. What's wrong with playing? I never had a problem with the way Tibbs played guys here. Everybody else did. And I don't know what the bench situation was in in Chicago at the time. But I don't know. I think he's a good coach. What can I say? I get it. One of the great players in the NBA at the time. His career changes forever. Blame him. Yeah, I think the way Danny and John spelled it was correct or closer to correct. I'm not positive. Yeah, I think he was like, that sounds about right. Right? I want to say it was 74, 75. And that's originally played in Teaneck, New Jersey, and all their games were on Channel 9, WRR. I thought it was Channel 9. I remember the Yankees being on picks, too, yeah. Actually, the Mets were on Channel 9, weren't they, John? Well, in the 70s, when I was a kid, I think they were on. I could be wrong. I know they were on Channel 9 at one point. I don't remember the Knicks Rangers even where they were as far as local broadcasts. I thought the Mets were on WOR through the 70s anyway. Again, I could be wrong. I didn't watch a lot of Mets games. We didn't get them. When I got a chance of watching Yankees, I was either at my grandparents' when they had picks later in the 70s, or we'd get like 10 games a year up here on one of the local channels, Channel 10, WTEN. 10 games. We get 10 Sunday games a year. I listened to a lot of baseball on the radio as a kid, and I still love baseball on the radio if it's done by the right people. Not the Yankee broadcast, though. Rudy Gobert might have played his best series of his NBA career. I agree. I mean, I've spent the better part of a decade bashing Rudy Gobert, but I can't say anything bad about the series he played here against Jokic. Played great. Well done. Nets also had, Bill. I can never say his name, by the way. Spell it out for me phonetically. Melkany. I know that's not how you say it because I hear it and I'm like, that's, John Rauch. Are they both from South Carolina or South? I know John Rauch was from South Carolina. Billy Pultz was a center. Also, wasn't Brian Taylor one of that backcourt peeps? You had Rick Barry for a couple years before the doctor came into town. Who coached there after Carnesecca left? Kevin Lawfrey, I think. Lockery. Plane was coming from Louisiana and crashed in JFK. 109 died summer 1975. Plane hit a tower. End up in the water, John, or remember? I feel like it. And again, I could be mixing up my plane crashes, but knock on wood, man. 70s, 80s, it seems like there were tons of plane crashes. 70s, it seems like there was at least one bad plane crash a month, it felt like. Now we don't have them. But I do remember it was flying into New York. I was pretty close. I knew it was 74 or 75. Sometimes the memory's not so bad. I had this memory of it like hitting the water or something. Did part of it land in the water, John? Good one. AG had a couple too in 69. Good one. Swobodas is a good one in 69. Good one, John. And AG had a couple in that series too, if I remember right. So, Matt, you've stirred some very good memories for some people. Good job. I like that. Throw those questions out like that, guys. I love getting into this stuff. We had one Friday, best arm from right field. It was a great question. I think John went to Clemente. I think John was there that day. Actually, you had a couple of guys there. But catches, that's a great one. Ron Swoboda's catching 69 World Series. Good one. Neil, I should have thought Neil might remember it too. The Pinella play. Kept the runners at first and second. Next guy up at a fly ball would have tied the game. Listen, that ball gets by Pinella. Those guys probably all score. Or at least one of them scores. Yeah, it would have tied the game at that point. I remember that play clear as day. In a game that's remembered for Bucky's home run, right? I remember Pinella's stab just as much. Danny's granddaughter plays indoor 6-player and beach. She's going to play at California Baptist next year for both. So she plays both. I thought they were like usually separate entities. Will she play both in college, Danny? Now, if Danny ran for governor of California, I'm pretty sure they'd probably rejoin the union. I'm almost positive they'd rejoin the rest of the sovereign United States of America. I think John, I think we're on to something. Danny, take that money you were going to use to buy the Knicks in the Garden and run for governor. You get mine and John's votes, but I don't think that's going to do you any good. I moved to California, actually, to help you out. Michael's been religiously smashing likes on your YouTube shorts. I appreciate that, by the way, mainly with Jack. Remind everybody to try to do the same to get your algorithm up. Would be greatly appreciated, I'm sure. Yes, again, guys, if you would do me a favor, these shows, if you come in here and comment, throw a like or a heart or laugh or something. Do something. The engagement of the commenting is great, works well, but if you can like this show, and when I put out the shorts, whether it's on YouTube especially, we're starting to gain some traction, right? I mean, we're up to 100 and some subscribers, which isn't a lot when you compare it to, going for 3,000 on Facebook. But we've really increased the views on YouTube. And like I said, we're at 100,000 on Facebook this last 28 days. I would say that YouTube's not very far behind that, might even be ahead of it. And it's the shorts that the clips that are doing well. So if you go to the TGI Sports Talk YouTube page, click on shorts, every show I add some clips that are AI generated through StreamYard, and I'll put those up along with the full show stays there as well. And we've been getting a boatload of views on those clips. So please do that. Please, like it. Hate it. I don't care. If you got a thumbs down too, I don't care. Whatever. It's still engagement. And it would help the algorithm. So thank you, Michael, I'm not good at self-promotion, I guess. Which is why I'm doing this for free. I shouldn't say that. We've actually started to make some money. Don't tell the IRS. But just from content from YouTube, or I'm sorry, Facebook, we're making about $20 a month. Don't tell the IRS because I haven't reported any of that. I might have to think about it. I have to talk to our accountant next year if it should go up. Again, that's not a lot of money. Doesn't even pay for my StreamYard. But it's better than a sharp stick in the eye. Pays for coffee. We don't allow toilet paper emojis on here. Where's the toilet paper emoji? Where's that? I can't. I'm not seeing it, I guess. Oh, there it is. No, that's Danny. That Pat's crap. Yeah, we don't allow toilet paper emojis. I didn't know there was one. We need a segment of coaches that have benefited by taking over a team that was right on the brink of doing amazing things and got credit for what other coaches. I'm sorry, got credit for what the other coach and got credit for what the other coach got fired, laid the groundwork, or just saying that'll be an interesting one. I see what you're saying. So, like if Mike Brown won the championship this year, so did it with Tibbs' team other than, a couple guys. That's a good one. That's a good one. We don't have time today, but let's revisit that, Danny. Bring it up. Whatever. It could become more relevant as these playoffs go on. I don't want to. If guys want to throw out a couple now, that's fine. But we don't have a lot of time to dive into it. So that's a good question, though. I like that one. That's a really good one. I'm trying to think of a few. There's a few I can think of. So ultimately, they would have had to win championship, I'm thinking, right? Doug Collins might be one of the best. I'd say the best. But when he was one, well, he might have been one of the best, that's for sure. Mayo and the cheating Vrabel will be in the top 10. How does Vrabel get in? How's Vrabel get in the top 10? He didn't take over. No. The heart of that team was revamped. I mean, Drake May was there, obviously. But, I mean, the defense, yeah, I don't think I'm going to be able to get on board with Mayo and Vrabel, quite frankly. But, it's not a bad example. Westhead is a perfect one, I think. Westhead and Pat. I see you did it backwards. That's why. So you're talking about Doug Collins into Phil Jackson, Paul Westhead into Riley. That's a good one. I don't think I can buy Mayo and Vrabel though, because too much changed. Yeah. Good question though. I like it. I get you're supposed to play your superstar almost. There we go, Damien. The most minutes, but you don't force a guy to do everything when you have others who can play, like Deng and Noah. That was a good team. I mean, but doesn't Tibbs get some responsibility for turning those guys into stars? I mean, they were great players, but I mean, I don't know. Did that team get to the Eastern Conference Finals? I don't remember. I just remember thinking Tibbs did a really good job there. I never had a problem with Tibbs. A lot of people had a problem when he got hired here. I didn't. But again, your criticism's fair if you think he, played Derrick Rose too much and it caused or led to his injuries. And it's a shame, by the way. I will go out and say this. Whatever the reason, and sometimes knees and things just give out. It isn't, Bernard King is a great example here in New York. Yeah, he didn't get hurt because he played too many minutes. He just had an awkward landing. Never a same player. Rose was a great player, and it's really sad. You really wanted someone like Rondo or Mike Malone. Well, it's not going to be. It's Michael. He doesn't like Mike anymore, by the way. You can call him Mike, Damien. I kid 2 years ago, I guess, when he said, I don't want to be called Mike anymore. Call me Michael. But why Rondo? I've heard Rondo a few times, and maybe it's from you, Damien. I don't know. But I feel like I've heard it from other people and for other jobs, like in Milwaukee, people talking about Rondo. Yeah, so I guess it's not just you. Where is Rajon Rondo, and why am I thinking he should be a head coach? I'm confused. Unless we're talking about a different Rondo, I'm lost. I got to get through these comments too. Riddle Clemente in 72 after Christmas. Plane crash, yeah. On a relief mission to Nicaragua, right? They had a bad earthquake. Crashed after taking off from San Juan Airport. When we were in San Juan a couple of years ago on a cruise, and we saw that spot where that crash happened, roughly. Again, they aren't 100% sure, but that general area where the plane took off, and sad story. Another vote for Danny. There's a guy who can actually vote for you too, Danny. Oh, Super John Williamson. I remember Brian Taylor, Larry Keenan. Yep. Billy Pultz. Those are great. Great names. Super John. Had Brian Taylor on my interview show when I was doing interviews. He was a good interview. You can find, if you go back on Facebook or YouTube, you can find all those interviews that I did for years. And I haven't gotten back into. I know Rick's going to say I need to do it, but it's a lot of work. I can't see that, man. What is that? I can't see what that is. I got to run too, Paul. Good to have you. Good. Thank you. I did out myself again. I don't know about that. Thank you, though. Bring it up another time. It is a good topic. I like it. You came up with some good ones to start the ball rolling. Any MLB play you like today, if I might ask? Ah, there's Mr. Black Sheep back. You mean a bet today? You used to come on my... You're not the same guy who used to come on my college show and want picks, were you? Who's playing today? I don't know. Let me look at the pitching matchups today. How about, and these are going to be, it's going to be a money line bet. I'm not a guy who can, and I don't bet a lot of baseball, quite frankly. I'll bet series when, we get to playoffs and whatnot. But I'll give you a game today. How about, I don't like that one. How about, I'm looking for a dog for you to have a chance with. I kind of like that one. Philadelphia's played really well. By the way, I think nobody's lost in Philadelphia since Donnie Mattingly became the Phillies manager. Phillies win yesterday? I take that back. So that was before yesterday. Before yesterday, none of the teams had lost in Philadelphia. Anyway, let me give you a team. All right. Yankees are minus 240. That's a lot. I'll give you a dog today. How about this? Miami plus 133. So you bet 100, you win 133. It's Luzardo against Chris Paddock. Take a flyer on one. I got to get through the rest of these in 1 minute. We're going to go a little over, Brian. Sorry. Talking about the sensitive subject of Vrabel. Do you think that he can fully recover from the recent debacle? Also, will there be negative fallout for the Pats this season? My gut reaction is that this is not good. I've lost a lot of respect for Mike Vrabel because first of all, you don't cheat on your wife. That's between him and his wife. He broke his wedding vows. He didn't commit a crime. He didn't do some, he made a huge mistake. Yes, he hurt his wife, hurt his family, hurt the team. He should never have lied once it did come out. He should have just faced the music. I mean, it looks like he apologized for getting caught, not what he did, by not coming clean until more pictures came out. I think it'll be a distraction early in camp, and I think, if they lose, this will become a story. If they win, it will go away. That simple. No, unfortunately, we don't. We only got the first round with Tibbs. I thought they went further. So Keith's been able to stay updated with the talk on the show. Does everybody have him? I froze? Oh, no. Thank you, Danny. Had fun. Good luck with that run for governor. I'm going to find a way to get everybody I know in California to vote for you. Oh, toilet paper. I gotcha. No wonder I can't see it. If Neil put it up, I didn't see it because it just blended in. You like the D-backs today? Best bet? What are they? Here I am trying not to go long, and I'm looking for a baseball bet I'm not going to make. We're trying to help you out here. Who was that? Mr. I don't remember who it was now. Mr. Black. Arizona, there it is. Arizona plus 146. Merrill Kelly against Matthew Boyd. There's a good one, too. I like that one. I like Miami because they're at home. Philly's not playing great baseball, obviously. But Luzardo's a good pitcher. So D-back's another good one. Good one, Danny, helping our boys out. All right, guys. We'll see you tomorrow morning with Jack, with Keith and Jack's weekend update. We'll have Paul Semendinger on, Dr. Paul Semendinger. We'll talk. Paul will be on about 8:30. 8:25. We're going to talk about his new book, Greatest Yankees by Number. And he's had some other books out too. And we'll probably talk some baseball with Dr. Paul as well. So you guys have a great Sunday, and we'll see you on the rebound. Bye-bye.